Can the Dallas Cowboys pull off a massive upset on Sunday Night Football? We'll break it all down on this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, we've got quite the game on Sunday Night Football. Cowboys at 49ers. Do the Cowboys have any shot in this one?
Oh, man. It was going straight for it right at the beginning of the episode. I love it. Yeah, I mean, I think they have a fighter's chance. I mean, look, I don't like the odds. I don't like the overall chance, but I mean, I do think that there are elements about this that we are underestimating. Even, we've all seen the injury reports. We've all seen, the how depleted this team, San Francisco, is. Obviously, the Cowboys are depleted themselves and aren't even as healthy as we had hoped that they would be coming out of the bye. But there are definitely ways to win these games, even if the odds don't feel very good and the vibes around this team don't feel very good.
Yeah, so one of the ways the Cowboys win this game is if the offense gets on track, right? And I do think this is a game where they could do it. The 49ers defense has a couple really good players, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, you know the names, but they are not as talented as they were over the last couple of years. We've seen Matt Stafford with the depleted wide receiver core beat them. We saw Kyler Murray beat them with his legs. Now, obviously, Dak's not going to do that, but is this the week that the Cowboys offense, which is mostly healthy outside of Brandon Cooks, do they get back on track?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how they have to win, and specifically, they've got to find a way to get this running game on track, right? Like, because I do think that if you want to beat San Francisco, we'll talk about all the injuries that are going to happen on the offensive side, on the other side of the offense. I mean, the San Francisco offense. But if you want to beat them, I think one of the better ways to do it is obviously to play a little bit of keep away, right? And I do think that the difference between this San Francisco team as it is currently constructed versus previous iterations of this team is that outside of Joey Bosa, they have been depleted on their defensive line to a large degree, right? They're missing Gross Matos. They're missing well, I'm looking at the names here, but they're missing Dre Greenlaw at the linebacker. They're missing
Hargrave.
Hargrave as defensive tackle. So I think that's obviously the big one. Hargrave, right in the middle, they're starting Malik Collins, who Cowboys legend Malik Collins. That's right. And basically a bunch of nobodies. A guy named Jordan Elliott, who was an undrafted free agent from Cleveland, who's been kind of a journeyman sort of player. So they're kind of experiencing a defensive tackle situation like the Cowboys have been experiencing a defensive end situation the last few weeks. So if the Cowboys are and we're just to point this out, Guyton is likely to be back into the lineup from what we've seen. So you're moving Smith inside. So I think what I'm getting at is you Cowboys may have a little bit of an advantage that they can take advantage of in the middle of their offensive line versus the middle of the San Francisco defensive line. If they could find a way to get a foothold and get this running game going and keep the ball away, be a little bit more efficient on third downs and convert it and just kind of efficiently move the ball, which we've seen them do. The problem has really been scoring, right? The problem has really been putting the ball into the end zone. So the Cowboys can find a way to kind of get back into that sort of Pittsburgh game efficiency as far as moving the ball with the added addition of actually putting it into the end zone. I do think that there's an opportunity for the Cowboys to kind of keep pace at this game for a while. And then, you just wait to see how it all plays out at the end.
Yeah, we should mention a couple other injuries. Hufanga, their safety, he has wrist surgery. He's out in this one. They've been starting D. Winters, who is a player that they got from TCU last year. He's a 5'11", 220-pound. He's really more of a safety than he's a linebacker. So that's the key. Can you run the ball, keep them honest, hit them with play action shots across the middle of the field? We'll see. It has to be the offense. We talked about 2 weeks ago when the Cowboys played Detroit. That was a game where the offense needed to come out fast, score points, and put the pressure on Detroit's offense. What do the Cowboys do? Field goal, red zone turnover, punt, first 3 possessions. You do that in this game, it's over.
Yeah, I mean, look, it doesn't look like you're going to get Deron Bland or Micah Parsons in this game unless we get some news that comes out today or tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and assume that they aren't playing. You will likely get Kalen Carson back, so at least there's a shot of depth ejected into the defensive backfield. But the bottom line is that once again you're going into a week where your defense is physically compromised. The Cowboys offense has got to find a way to pick up the slack. Look, obviously both sides of the ball looked terrible against Detroit, but there's a reason that the only side of the ball that you and I were very, very critical of is the offensive side, because they had no excuses. Well, they still have no excuses here. They have to find a way to get this right, to start playing more efficient football. And if they can't do it coming out of the bye, they can't do it in this game that the Cowboys absolutely need, and an opportunity to bury a hated and frankly terrifying opponent that they face every year. I just don't know that this is going to happen this year. And so we need to see some life, some efficiency, some competence from the Cowboys offense coming out of the bye.
I'd also like to see some confidence, right? Go into this game showing that you believe that you can win it on offense. And I think it starts with Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott. Like, I want to see that first drive out of the game be scripted, look great, like show that you have the execution. If it's another one of these games, Landon, where it's penalty, second 10 run that gets 1 yard, it's 3rd and 9 and you throw the ball 3 yards, like I'm going to be really discouraged coming out of this game. Like, you've had 2 weeks to get ready for this game. It's Sunday Night Football. If there's not a level of urgency here from the Cowboys, I'm going to be really, really concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, look, I mean, the line, this is one of those games where the line does not kind of indicate the urgency of the Cowboys need to kind of win here, and frankly how much of an uphill battle that the Cowboys are facing. I mean, the Cowboys are only, I think, 4 points underdogs against
right now at FanDuel, 4-point favor or 4-point underdogs. Yep.
When you get 3 points at home for playing at home, like that's not a big advantage. It's basically a toss up. I think that this is a much more difficult matchup than that spread indicates. But I think the way that the Cowboys counteract that is come out, play aggressive football on offense, get points up on the board, try to get this game into a game script that you are comfortable with, dictate the terms. And I think that you can put the San Francisco defense into a spot where if you can beat them up early, then later you could beat them up late too. And if you could find a way to kind of just keep the defense, San Francisco's offense in check, keep them at a certain, level of just not scoring on every single drive, you can, keep yourself into this game into the fourth quarter, and then, anything can happen at that point.
We're going to talk about the defense in the next segment, but I do want to point out on the crossover with Brian Peacock, go check it out wherever you get your podcast, YouTube. One of his big concerns coming into this game was special teams. The 49ers are 32nd in DVOA on special teams. Now, they've had some injuries. They're down to their third kicker, but they're 32nd in kickoff return coverage. This would be a really good week for Kevontae Turpin to give you an advantage. And I thought last week against Detroit, they actually figured something out with these kind of swooping, I think it was CJ Goodwin, that would kind of come around Turpin and they would fake the toss, right? And it would just freeze the kickoff return or kickoff coverage unit for a second. Right? For just a second. Any way that you can steal yardage in this game to make life on your offense a little easier as they're trying to figure out things is going to be very beneficial.
Yeah, this is the one area where the Cowboys have a clear advantage. That's special teams. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned San Francisco is 32nd. Yeah. Dallas is number 1, if I'm not mistaken.
They are.
So in DVOA special teams. So I think that they should press that advantage as the best they can, because they're going to need all the advantages they can kind of expose. Getting some good field position on a nice return, doing some interesting things on punts and kickoffs.
Block a kick, right? You have a new kicker in there. Maybe to change up the operation there. Yeah, anything.
Yeah, just anything that you can to try to squeeze the extra advantage. Create an opportunity for momentum to change. I think that the Cowboys have got to find a way to use that special teams advantage that they have in this game. And I expect something, at least one big play, hopefully, from the special teams this week.
I actually feel pretty confident the Cowboys are going to look good on offense. Now, how good, I think that remains to be seen.
Yes.
My concern in this game is their defense. I don't know how they're going to get stops. Let's discuss that next. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just have to pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get action on sports in most states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. PrizePicks is also the only real money daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in place even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and does not return, PrizePicks keeps your lineup alive. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the PrizePick app. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. This episode is brought to you by Pre-Alcohol by Zbiotics. Pre-Alcohol probiotic drink by Zbiotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Zbiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Again, drink pre-alcohol, drink responsibly, pace yourself, hydrate, get a good night's sleep, and then enjoy your next day. Go to Zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use LockedOnNFL at checkout. Zbiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason at all, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to Zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL at checkout for 15% off. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We are breaking down the Sunday night football matchup between the Cowboys and the 49ers. I think, Landon, this is like the 5th year in a row these two teams have met. Pretty crazy. But let's talk about the defense. No Micah Parsons, no Deron Bland, no DeMarcus Lawrence, obviously no Sam Williams, no Marshawn Nealon, no Jordan Phillips. That might be a good one. How do the Cowboys get a stop in this game? Because that's my concern. Even with all the guys out of the lineup for the 49ers, how do they get a stop?
Well, first of all, hearing you talk about all the people that are missing, can I get that promo code for Zbiotics pre-alcohol real quick?
Locked on NFL.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm going to need that for watching the Cowboys defense. Yeah, I mean, look, like I think we all expected that coming out of the bye, we would hopefully be in a better situation than we were going into Detroit. I don't know that we are. I mean, I think the thing that we're getting back that is positive is that Eric Kendricks is coming back, and I know that doesn't sound like a huge thing, but the fact is that right now the Cowboys are on the wrong side of the McMosier line. And until they can find a way to stop the run, like that's kind of the whole ball game. And really against this San Francisco team, which has, really, really beat up this Cowboys defense every time they've played in the last, like you said, 4 or 5 years. The Cowboys have had an inability to kind of stop the run consistently. I think that they had 1 or 2 games where they were really, really focused on it and then kind of got gashed behind by Ayuk. But he's not playing in this game, so I think for me, you've got you've got Kittle who's playing. It sounds like, but he's compromised. You've got Debo who's playing, but he's also kind of compromised. I think that the Cowboys have got to find a way to kind of stop the run first and focus on that. And then, then you can kind of see how it all plays out in the passing game. Pass rush is obviously going to be difficult against this very good offensive line. But I think at this point, the Cowboys have got to focus on a way to stop the run, because if they can't stop the run at just a regular rate, it doesn't really matter, about anything else, because the 49ers will dominate the time of possession. They'll start their play action game, which is better, frankly, the best, and maybe the better than anything when the thing the Cowboys have faced so far. And obviously the results when the Cowboys have kind of gotten in that game script have been terrible so far. So they have got to find a way to stop the run. And then I think, you have to figure it out from there.
So I wonder if Mike Zimmer is going to try something different in terms of stopping the run, because I think just lining up in your nickel formation, 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, it's not going to cut it, because you're going to get blown off the ball because you have guys on the field that shouldn't be on the field. So do we see more 5-man defensive lines? Do we see more of a base defense, even if the 49ers are in 11 personnel? How do they treat Kyle Juszczyk? Do they count are they using him as a tight end? Are they using him as a blocker? Like, I want to see with Mike Zimmer, who has had 2 weeks to get ready for this game, what kind of adjustments he's making to help their defensive linemen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're going to have to try some different, alignment stuff, maybe some mint tight fronts where you have more bigger bodies condensed inside, almost like a bear front, where you're kind of trying to get singled up on those 3 interior offensive linemen. And that can make some of the zone run stuff a little bit more difficult to kind of parse out, because you don't have the uncovered linemen to kind of get to the second level or to kind of function in that role in inside zone and outside zone. So, look, there's just a number of things that they're likely going to have to do, but all of it kind of is at the sacrifice of a sound pass defense, right? It's like
and that's
the issue.
For me, the story of this game is how does Trayvon Diggs play? Because Brandon Ayuk has been somebody who historically has crushed Trayvon Diggs. Now, he's not playing in this game. Deebo Samuel is an awesome player, but he's not really a route runner.
He's not going to get open on his own. You got to scheme him open. That's why it's so important to have Ayuk on the team, because you need somebody who can win on routes by themselves.
And I don't think Jawan Jennings is going to play in this game. Even if he does, he's going to be very limited. So you need Trayvon Diggs and Jordan Lewis and Kalen Carson to, I don't want to say shut down, but you need to take away Ricky Pearsall and Chris Conley and all those other receivers. Like, if those guys are having big games, you have no chance. At least try to make them one-dimensional when it comes to throwing the ball.
Yeah. I think that's a very key thing, is that you've got an advantage on the perimeter in the passing game on defense. That's something that you don't normally have when you play the 49ers. I mean, in general, not just the Cowboys. Most teams don't have the way to match up a healthy 49ers perimeter group, right? Yep. So you have an opportunity here that actually allows you to potentially focus a little bit more, or put more resources to stopping the run, because you hope that you can rely on Trayvon Diggs isolated on the outside versus whoever he's going.
Right.
Kalen Carson obviously is a young player, but they have gotten positive results doing some stuff similar with him. And again, I'll take my chances on Kalen Carson, with in a bad coverage situation versus wide receiver 6 for San Francisco, whose name I don't even know, versus, trying to not spend enough resources in stopping the Kyle Shanahan run game. So I think the Cowboys, if they could find a way to slow down, or at least, stymie this run defense a little bit, then the next step becomes, okay, how are our young players going against their young players? Are they able to kind of, make Purdy hold on to the ball? Is it enough that if the Cowboys are able to get, send some pressure, are they going to be able to get home on Purdy in time before he beats the blitz with a quick throw? Those are all the kind of cat and mouse game, but that all happens after the Cowboys find a way to, solidly stop the run. And until that happens, this is going to be a tough day for the Cowboys.
So I don't think you and I have any delusions about what this is going to be. This is going to have to be a bend but don't break defense, right? Like, you can give up yards. It's not going to be the end of the world to give up yards, but you have to hold your opponents to field goals, right? Against the Lions, they didn't do that. The Lions scored basically every single time they went down the field. The 49ers have been okay in the red zone this year. Not awesome, not the way they usually are. I'm looking at the numbers right now. They are actually they've been worse than I thought. They're 27th in the NFL in red zone touchdown percentage, 45th, 45%. Excuse me. That's what you're going to have to do, right? Like you can go 1 for 4 in the red zone, 2 for 5 in the red zone. If you do that, you'll actually have a chance to steal this game. But if they go 4 for 4, this game's over.
Yeah, and the obviously the flip side of that is the Cowboys offense has got to score points. I mean, I think we've kind of hit on what this is that I think both teams are going to be able to move the ball. I think against the defenses that they're facing, they're both kind of depleted. These are both offenses that are themselves depleted or kind of on the wrong foot or whatever you want to say. But I do think that even despite that, the matchups are favoring the offenses on both sides of the ball. So ultimately, this is going to come down to two things that it ultimately usually comes down to is turnovers and red zone efficiency. And whoever wins that battle is likely to win the game.
Do you know where the Cowboys rank in red zone efficiency right now? Just guess.
I don't want to guess. There's 32 teams. Yeah, okay. Oh, God.
Miami is just barely below them. Yeah. So that's how bad it's been. It can't be that way if you want to steal this game. Like they're not going to get things turned around until they fix that part of their game, not only on defense, but on offense as well. All right, Lane, let's make our predictions for week 8. Cowboys at 49ers. Who wins? We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. We have an awesome slate of games on Sunday, 13 Sunday afternoon games. So we're going to watch football all day long leading up to that Cowboy 49er game. Right now, the 49ers are 4-point favorites. That line has moved a ton on FanDuel. Started out at like 6.5, 7, all the way down to 4. Go place your bet. Once you make your first $5 bet, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed on FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the new Locked On NFL show. 2 shows every single day. 1 in the morning with Tyler Rowland, 1 in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins. Our guy, Matt Williamson, actually pops on the show on Friday afternoons, so check him out as well. You can download that podcast wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Oh, and Landon, yes, go ahead.
I was going to say, make sure you guys are also checking out the NFC Squads show that we're releasing now on Wednesdays. It's so much fun. It's basically a bunch of the other NFC Locked On hosts. We all get on and talk about topics related to obviously the NFL. It's not just NFC talk, but it's NFC teams, and it's been a lot of fun so far. So definitely check those out.
And I jump on the AFC one to bash the Steelers every now and again.
So that's always fun too.
All right, later. Let's make our predictions. Who do you have winning this game?
It's hard to pick the Cowboys right now. I mean, the vibes are not great around this team. The injury situation hasn't seemingly gotten too much better. They're going into play their biggest boogeyman at their place. It's just not a great time to be a Cowboys fan right now. Like it just feels tough. And I think the way to kind of turn this around is to win this football game, to prove everybody wrong, kind of fly in the face of all of this and go out there and beat a team that is also themselves, really, really having a tough year. Like this isn't a situation where the Cowboys are facing the Detroit Lions, who were an angry buzzsaw that hated the Cowboys for what happened last year. Like the 49ers are going to try to win this game, not because they're mad or they're upset about the way things happen. They're trying to save their season, just like the Cowboys are. So it's a desperate team. And I think that's a tough thing to face as well. I'm picking the 49ers to win. I'm going to say 27-24. I just think that it's a very difficult, matchup, even with all the injuries for the team that we've seen play so far this year. My hope is that, much like last year in previous seasons, that this is going to be a different team that we see come out of the bye, that they've actually taken the week to really improve themselves, to kind of tighten things up. I think that this team has talent to play better than they are currently, that they need to kind of just play better, more efficiently. And if that happens, I think that they can win this game, but I can't predict that that's going to happen because I have yet to see it so far this season. So I'm picking the Niners.
So I'm with you. I'm picking the Niners as well. They are, to me, they're the more desperate team, right? They are 3-4 right now. They're already in last place in the NFC West. They already have losses against the Cardinals and the Rams this year. They go to 3-5 with their upcoming schedule. I think they play the Bills, Lions, Tampa Bay in the next three games.
Yeah.
It gets ugly quickly. Obviously, the Cowboys are desperate as well. They want to avoid a 3-4 start, but I just don't see how they get stops on defense. So my question to you is, do we think this game is competitive? Like, is this a game where they lose at the end, or maybe they're always within a score or two scores, but it's not out of range? Or is this like the Lions game where it's 9:30 Eastern time and we're already talking about the Cowboys, what they're doing next week?
I'll say this, like, to me, I mean, the Lions game was not acceptable, but it's not shocking, right?
No.
Because of all the things we talked about, this is an extremely good Lions team that was completely healthy coming off a bye. The Cowboys were beat up. Everything was going against the Cowboys, and that score showed it, right? That's not this situation. This is the best opportunity the Cowboys have had in some ways to beat San Francisco in the last 4 or 5 years because of all the things that are happening on that side. If the Cowboys can't make this game competitive, it's time to fold the season. I hate to be dramatic like that, but you said that this is a bigger game for San Francisco. In the statistics, I think it is, but not in the minds and the hearts of the Cowboys or Cowboys fandom. Frankly, like, this is, I think, in some ways a franchise inflection point because of all the things that happened over the bye week, all the things that have happened with the hot seat McCarthy. I think the pressure is on the Cowboys, and if they don't at least put up a good showing against San Francisco in San Francisco, I don't know how you could feel confident about what this team is going to do in the 2024 season going after this.
And let's be positive. Let's flip it to the other side. Imagine the Cowboys do win this game. They go to San Francisco. They win on the road. They would be 4-0 on the road this season,
right,
which was a big deal for them. They wanted to be better on the road. And now you're going into week 9 against the Falcons. I believe that game was at home.
No, it's at Atlanta.
Oh, it's at Atlanta. Okay. You will likely get Micah Parsons or Deron Bland back, maybe both of those guys back. And now we're having a race in the second half of the season to get to to win the NFC East. It's crazy how you can go from
the spectrum, right?
The spectrum, right? Like, hey, and again, look at the other teams in the NFC East this week. The Bengals are hosting the Eagles. The Bengals are favored in that game. The Bears are playing Washington. It doesn't seem like Jaden Daniels is playing. Chicago is favored in that game. There's a scenario where the Cowboys are a half game behind Washington after week 8. There's also a scenario where you and I are doing a show on Tuesday of, hey, these are the top 5 draft prospects you need to start watching because we're already at that point in the season.
I can't remember a regular season game in which the spectrum of outcomes was so wide, right? Like that, everything from you could feel incredible about this team if they win a big game in San Francisco to how soon can we fire Mike McCarthy and start talking about the draft, right?
Well, I think we felt that a little bit in the Chargers game last year, right? Because the Cowboys lost to the 49ers. I don't remember what the record was, but it felt very similar. Like, you lose that Chargers game, it's over. But I feel like this is even more dire because of where we're at in the year.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like I think that how we felt about that team in season is similar. But to me, there's an element that has happened in this last week that has made this a bigger conversation about the franchise writ large. Yeah. Jerry Jones and the head coach. So there's a lot on the line for all levels of Cowboys in this game. So they need to win. I just don't know if they will.
It's going to make for some great content next week if the Cowboys lose. I'll tell you that much.
Wow. Either way.
All right. That is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen of the day. Go check us out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosier. Enjoy the games. Enjoy week 8. We'll see you right back here on Monday.